Here we go, advanced lesson 7. This lesson is on split chains, my bad. I don't even know where I am anymore, you guys. So, split chains is what we're going to be talking about, similar to split rings in that they are very useful for moving between rounds or rows without having to break thread. This is the center first round of the Adore pattern, which will be up at the same time as this video. I did not print a copy to have out as a handy cheat sheet, but this video will essentially be a walkthrough for the pattern. The pattern itself is very simple. It's just the moving between the rounds that gets to using our advanced techniques. So this pattern has one split chain and one split ring. But other than that, it's pretty easy. I'm doing it in 2 colors so that you can see where the threads go. My ring thread, my shuttle 1 thread is going to be this gray, and my shuttle 2 is going to be this orange, these lovely Halloween-y colors, because we all know that my life is Halloween like 24/7. It doesn't really matter what time of year it is. And these the colors kind of follow what's my printed colors on the pattern, sort of, not really, but we'll pretend like they do. So normally if I were making this round, if I wanted to move to the next round, I would need to make this final chain, tie it off here, sew all the ends in, and then rejoin to start the next round. So what we're going to do is make a split chain so that we don't need to do that. So the important things to know are if you're using 2 colors like I am, this will show. It will show where you have switched the colors. So it works best if you're using a single color, or some variegateds work out okay, but solid colors work the absolute best as far as being invisible. The next thing you need to know is that what you want to do if you're working with a pattern that is not written for split chains, but you want to use it anyways, you want to know which picot your joins are going to be made at for the next round. So in the next round of this pattern, the joins are all made on the center picot, so I want to make sure that I end at a center picot. And how I'm going to do that is by making half of the chain regularly with my normal way, with the core thread being the shuttle 1 and stitches being shuttle 2, and then I'm going to work back for the split ring so that I can end in the middle of the chain. So to do that, see here, I try to keep my camera zoomed in a little bit more for you guys this time, and I'm using my normal method. You can do the I guess regular method where you don't where you flip everything around if you want to, but I'm just doing my usual method, if that makes any sense. I don't even know if I'm making sense today, guys. So if you have extra questions for this video, because I'm all hyped up on like cold medicine and shit because of back to school season, which is lovely. So if you have extra questions, I don't feel bad about putting them below. Okay, so I've made the first half of my split chain, 2 picot 2, and now I'm going to make the second half of my split chain. Now this technique kind of follows last month's lesson where we tatted over a ring or a solid object with the kitty ears and all of that stuff. But instead of tatting over a solid object, I am going to make a base out of my core thread, my shuttle 1 thread here, by joining a lock join back to my beginning. So it's kind of hard to tell because I'm using 2 colors. I left a little space here when I started that. But you should be able to work your hook somewhere in there and make a lock join, leaving a little bit of bare thread. So this can be a little tricky to judge because you want it to be about the same amount as what it will take to make your stitches on. I this is the trickiest part. I find that a lot of people, when first starting this technique, tend to leave too much space. They leave it too loose. I always think it's a little bit better to leave, to make it a little smaller than what you think you need, and then kind of work with it if you feel like you need to stretch it out. So I have, with my shuttle 1, I've made this lock join back to my center, and I have this bare space here. And then we're just going to cover that space with double stitches like we did with last month's lesson, which if you haven't watched that, I recommend watching that before this one. Lesson number 6, I believe, if I can count. And I'm just going to work my way back. Using that same method. And you can kind of squish the first half of the chain out of the way if you feel like you don't have enough room. So there's 1. Now I'm going to make 2. And for the next one, so there's my 2 stitches on my thread. And again, I'm just kind of pulling each side open a little bit because what I don't want is to end up with a lot of bare thread left when I'm done. And then that chain is going to look very sloppy and loose, and it's not going to blend in with the other ones. So for this one, I need to make a picot in between. So a lot of times when I need to make a picot when I'm doing this method, this tat over method, whether for split chains or for something else, I'll kind of tie the double stitch very loosely first and then work that picot out of whatever slack I've left in. And then I just have 1 more left. So just going from the top to the bottom, pulling that loop up, making sure not to twist it. Put my shuttle through, tighten almost all the way down, but not quite. Flip it around. Tighten that first half down, and then put the shuttle through the top. Like so, to make a double stitch. So there we have it. We have a split chain. So now you can see by doing that, and it will take quite a bit of practice to get yours to look this neat. I struggled with split chains for a really long time, so I ended up just doing a bunch of them over and over and over until I could figure out how to make them easier. One trick I did figure out, if you have a really hard time judging this distance for how much you need to leave, go ahead and make your chain the same length, or do the full chain like you would if you were not going to do a split chain. Do the lock join and then unpick your stitches. You can actually unpick your stitches using like the tat over method in reverse, kind of. So if I like messed up and had one too many here or something, I could unpick this stitch, just work it loose, and then follow it back through however it needs to go. Just follow the thread through. So you see what I did there? I flipped it around so that I could get my shuttle through it. And then you can unpick those stitches until you have are all the way back to where you need to be, and then work your split chain stitches up to that point, and that will help you keep it very even and very tight, like it's supposed to be, and help it blend in more. But if yours end up very loose at the start, don't worry about it. It just takes practice, like everything else. Put that back in there. There we go. Close enough. Okay, so now I am to a point where I can just start my next round and go all the way around for my next round. So I'm going to do that really quick just to show you the next transition from round 2 to round 3, so that it's pretty easy. You can figure it out, but I'm just going to show you really quick anyways. So I'm just going to work this around. The next round, round 2, is just one big long chain. So doing my 3 picot 3 picot 3 and one more picot 3, and then joining to the center picot of the chain below it, and then just doing that all the way around. So I'm just going to do that really quick. Okay, so now I've completed the last section of that chain D from round 2. So the whole round is just one big chain that goes all the way around. And I'm going to join it back to this base of where I started this chain. So to do that, if you kind of work your shuttle pick or hook, whatever you've got in there, you should be able to find the space between the threads and just do a lock join right there. To put that where it needs to be. Right there. And now, in order to move out to the next ring, we're going to use a split ring, which by now, if you've watched the videos in order, you should be pretty familiar with those. I haven't been including them in patterns as much because I've been trying to do one technique per advanced pattern, but this is one of those times when the split rings and split chains usually work together to do this moving out kind of motion, whether you're doing a round or different rows or whatever. So it's handy to get used to using them at the same time in the same pattern. So just making that split ring out. And now you can very obviously see why this works best in one color of thread, because you can very clearly see my color changes. So if you were wanting to do a pattern like this in 2 colors, it would probably be advisable to do each round separately just to keep the colors consistent. There are some tricks you can play and stuff, but in the end they end up being more of a pain in the ass than just sewing the ends in and getting used to that. So, but if you're using solid color or a single, even variegated single color of thread, this works great. And once you get used to the techniques, it's usually pretty much invisible. So that's about it for this pattern and for how to do split chains. As always, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment box below. You can message me directly on Patreon. You can send me an email to sparrow@sparrowspite.com or sparrow.sparrow.com, whatever. Did I mention the cold medicine? So have fun with this. You may have noticed from the picture, I didn't really have time to make a specific project with this because I do actually have a project I am working on with this pattern, but it's not completed yet. It's a little bit of a bigger project than what I normally do. Usually I just throw some stuff together really quick and slap some lipstick on and take a picture, but I am trying something a little different with this pattern, and I am hoping to finish it by the end of next month. We will see what happens. Just to give you a little peek, this is what they look like when they've been put together a little bit more in a bigger section. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the future. I am using a different I'm actually using a yarn for this, and this one I eliminated all of the extra picots just because I really like the clean look that you get versus this frillier look, but I wanted to do something with more picots just to show that it does look a little bit more frilly when you do that. And I do like this version as well, but for this version I decided to just eliminate the extra picots. But I think they look really cool when you put them all together like this. So that's a little peek at what I've been working on in my spare time, such as it is, as if that's a thing. Yeah. Have fun, guys. See you next time. Bye.